Morning, everyone. Everybody actually behaved and did what they were told. I'm surprised. Appreciate everybody being here. We're going to try to roll through this as quickly as possible in terms of trying to stay on schedule with the hopes that we're going to be in a position to spend as much time as possible on the working groups, assuming that they get rolling and we get some good dialogue. If things start to slow down or we're just sitting there killing time, we're going to shut it down and move on to the next topic. I want to first set the table. Our primary goal here today, I think, is we're putting forward issues that are going to need decisions made about how these issues are addressed. And their competing interests. What we're trying to do here is be able to provide for the people who make the decisions. Many of them are going to be in Washington. Some of them will be local. We want to give them options. We want to be able to provide them with ideas, concepts. Hopefully the environment is changing such that many of these concepts will be unorthodox. But we want to be able to provide them with concepts that they can consider when making their decisions. Because on a lot of issues, particularly things like with the budget, the fact we're schlepping around $32 trillion worth of debt, that's going to make decision makers change their approaches to how things have been done in the past. Our goal here today is to figure out how do we provide different options for them to consider. The means by which we do that is the State of the Space Industrial Base report that will be generated sometime August, September, hopefully. And that will more or less codify and be able to put into writing that we can point to where these ideas came from and be able to reinforce them. I am going to ask a couple of things because I had to be involved in crafting some of that report last year, and so I learned some lessons. One of the key lessons is if you stand up and make a statement of fact that you want us to remember, that you would like to be considered, that it be in a report, if you're making a statement of fact, provide me with the documentation from which that fact can be referenced, because I don't like hunting for other people's documentation. So I think because if you read the report, you see it's well referenced. There's a lot of footnotes. So if you're going to tell me something that's really important, show me where I can document that. And on that, I think that's sort of the primary tee up that I want to do. I think I'm going to start off, as I should, introducing my boss to welcome you, Frank DiBello.
Thank you, Dale. Applause in this group is not necessary, I can tell you. First of all, on behalf of the governor and our board, let me welcome all of you and some of you back to Space Florida for yet another round of the State of the Industrial Base discussions and the workshops that we're about to get into. As the state spaceport and aerospace development authority, we have the responsibility to partner with the federal government for the strategic investment and readiness of the state's spaceport system. And we look at that system as the entire complex of Florida's ports, roads, rail, bridges, commodities flow, everything that supports the space operations in Florida. And so therefore we have a key interest in what's being discussed here over the next couple of days. Our responsibilities under statute give us a unique toolkit, which enables us to be part of what I call potential solutions, or at least a meaningful collaborator in pursuit of those solutions for the challenges and the issues that are associated with the evolution of the spaceport of the future, especially in finance. The infrastructure finance workshop that you're going to get into this morning is clearly right in our wheelhouse. During the past decade, we financed over $2.7 billion of infrastructure around the state. That's aerospace infrastructure, and the predominant part of that capital was private sector funds, not government funding, not state funding. Also included in that was over $1.5 billion of spaceport infrastructure, in part with some funding that we get from the Florida Department of Transportation, because in Florida, we made space one of the modes of transportation. So it's planned along with all of the other modes. But the majority was with private sector funds. So I applaud the initiatives of certainly Space Force to secure new authorities and new tools that allow you to access capital and complement what's done in a non augmentation mode. There's no reason why a lot of the infrastructure that is going to be used both by government and commercial operators cannot be financed over the long term. A lot of our future assets can be financed over the long term using private sector capital. And along with that, there clearly are going to be payback or return on investment or user charges. The day of free infrastructure, the day of cheap infrastructure for commercial companies is over. It's going to change because that's the only way we can build in the sustainability for a lot of this infrastructure in the future. So besides the finance workshop, Space Florida is deeply engaged in a lot of the other issues that you'll confront in these workshops, especially with respect to port operations. At Port Canaveral, we're planning ways and looking at ways to develop a more compatible and available set of resources from port operations. And as the launch cadence increases in Florida, more and more of Florida's ports are getting involved. And so they have to be included in our planning to meet the growing launch cadence that we have in the state. In addition, we also have firsthand experience with what I call the finance challenges of many of the new space developmental companies, and understand well the potential impacts of shakeouts in the launch, expected shakeouts in the launch and supplier industrial base. And this is a matter of real concern that I know you guys are going to attack. So as a state, and as an industry and as a country, we need to navigate and manage the challenges to our industrial base for the future. It's critical. For tomorrow's workshop, I do want to call attention to the fact that Florida has significant interest in and development plans for both test and range capabilities in hypersonics. So what you're about to get into with the Black Sky exercise is also of critical importance to Florida, and I'm thrilled that you're going to be getting into that. So we've been blessed over the last 70 years with a long heritage in space launch and launch operations, and are familiar with the many challenges which face other spaceports as across the country and around the world as we develop capabilities and more countries get involved and more players are involved. The challenges from a protection of critical infrastructure are clearly there, but fundamental, the ground base for all of that is our national infrastructure and national supply chain, our industrial base. And so thank you for being here and for working on those challenges and issues. And I really look forward to participating with you all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Frank. As most of you may be aware, Frank's been our CEO for 14 plus years now, and he's retiring in a couple of months. And he's going to be some big shoes to fill in our industry, because the impact, Space Florida has been reasonably successful. As most of you who work with us, we are not perfect, but we've done a pretty good job of helping the state become what it is today. And we're looking forward to see who replaces him.